going to be recorded. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this fun, casual workshop on journaling. I decided to offer this workshop as a result of a conversation that I had in my private Facebook group, which is called Discovering You Again for Women in the Second Half of Life. Somebody was talking about something. I really don't remember what it was, but I know in response, I said to her, oh, she was talking about self reflecting, I guess. And I asked her, have you ever done any journaling? And we had a little bit of messaging conversation about journaling. Now, in my work as a confidence coach for women, I have, as part of my business plan, holding workshops for women. I have an online course, I do webinars, I've done many workshops of different sorts. And so, really, I just decided, hey, I'm going to do this because I love journaling. I'm going to talk about it for a minute. And I really want to, especially right now, encourage, inspire, motivate, and support other women to use journaling as the incredible tool that it is. And so I popped it up, and I'm delighted that you have joined me today. I'm especially delighted that there's a few of you I really don't know at all. So this has been such a blessing for me that has come out of my online business model. So welcome to everyone. And since there's only a few of us, I would love, if it's okay with you, to go around the room and have you introduce yourself, say your name and where you're from, if you want, whatever you're comfortable to share. And I really would like to know, again, there's only a few of us here, so I want to make this for us, why you came today, what brought you here to this journaling workshop. So I've already introduced myself. I live in the upstate New York area, Albany area. And I told you who I am and what I do, and that's good enough. So I'll just go around the room. So Mary Augusta, why don't we go to you?
Now I'm unmuted. I'm Mary Augusta Thomas, and as I mentioned, I'm Holyoke class of 73. I kept journals off and on for a very long time, but I'm finding that in fact, I'm less inclined to pick my journal up these days than I have been in a while. And normally this is when I would be writing quite a bit or trying to write quite a bit. I mind them occasionally for things, mostly just to remind myself of what I'm doing. I have occasionally mind them for writing, but not that much. I'm hoping to do that, not necessarily writing about myself, but writing in general. I'm retired. I worked at the Smithsonian for my entire career, and that's about it. I am published, but as a nonfiction author, not a fiction writer.
Great. I should say I am published as well. My books live up here next to me. So I actually do have 3 books published myself, and I will talk about those in a little bit. So Mary Augusta, it's great to have you here. I love mining my journals. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, Monique, I know you're kind of working and such, but I'm glad to have you. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my name is Monique Dumaine, calling in from Miami. Not a Miami native, but I am originally from the Northeast. So I am here today because I used to write a lot, and I've definitely fallen out of it. And like I used to have a practice right before bed every single night. I would start writing whatever came to mind and then always end on a good note. So you have those positive thoughts before going to sleep. And I don't think I've done that for a few years at this point. So I'm hoping that, this really inspires me to jump back in and maybe discover something new amongst all the chaos going on this year.
That's great. I love that. If nothing else comes out of this for you, Monique, but to remind yourself, to be reminded of how that practice served you, I will be ecstatically happy to see you start that up again. And you kind of know me a little, not really well, but I will be checking in with you on that. Okay. All right. Good. Hi, Yvonne.
Unmute me there. Hello, hi. I am Yvonne St. Andrew and I am in California. So forgive me, I was finishing my breakfast. um, uh, and I've been working off and on with Susan for quite some time. So I love to jump in on anything she's doing. And but with the journaling, I've done it kind of off and on, but not consistency. I've probably the most the beginning of this year, the middle of this year, but I've dropped off again. So I just kind of want to get back into it and reap the benefits of that.
Good. Okay, Yvonne, thank you. And my friend Marianne just came on and I just glanced at my phone because I knew she was supposed to be here. So I saw she couldn't get in. So glad you made it, Marianne.
Sorry.
Okay, Tamara, let's go to you if you want to introduce yourself just for a minute and say why you came.
I am me. So the best choices I made in life, I think, were joining the Army at 19 because they medically retired me at 25 and said I was too crazy to stay in. Well, I was just depressed, and now I'm very happy, and it has afforded me the ability to use all those benefits because I ended up with a ton of children. I have 5 of them, even though I'm only here in Hawaii with one of them. The others will join me when this whole school semester gets figured out. Don't know what I'd like to be when I grow up yet, but I've been able to use the GI Bill to exhaustion, and they've actually, anyway, there's other programs, so it's great. I've been to massage therapy courses, culinary arts, just whatever has interested me. Almost became a registered nurse, but I like what I do, which is whatever I want to do with my time, and enjoyed journaling before when I was married to my ginger Egyptian husband, and part of that journal got me into trouble, and at one point I ended up kidnapped in Egypt. So that was really fun, but they did feed me well. So would just like to get back to writing because I love memories and I take pictures of everything, and be nice to just read things one day.
Good. That's wonderful. Wow, there's a lot in there. You have a lot to journal about, and also to as a to role model for your children. Journaling is such a great it's just such a great tool to share with young people. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Marianne, if you'd like, we were just going around the room introducing ourselves, and you can or you don't have to put on your camera, but you can say your name and where you're from and why you joined today. There's just 6 of us here today.
Okay. I'm sorry I was late. I put a space between the right now and then I realized that, got it.
Okay, good. Sorry, I didn't see your text. Yeah.
That's okay. My name is Marianne Goodman Fish and I'm a life coach. I've worked with Susan for a couple of years now, and she's really helped me focus on what I want to do, and that's work with people and help them find their way through some of their difficult times. I specialize in grief and women in transition. Journaling has always been an important part of my life, and it was just a place where I could just go and, as I call it, to do a brain dump so that everything that was circling in my mind, I could kind of sort out. And as I've progressed through journaling, I'm finding that I'm much more focused, and I really enjoy that. And I think it's important to learn how other people journal so that I can share that with my clients, how journaling has helped me, and possibly hearing about how some other people journal differently than I do. Thank you for having this, Susan.
Yeah, thank you, Marianne. Thanks for being here today. Marianne is a creative, an artist, a coach working with women, and she uses her art inside her coaching, which is very cool. So, so great. I'm so excited about this. I'm so happy about this. And to tell you the truth, it's totally selfish because once I thought of this idea and put it out there, and a couple of people said, yes, I'll come, then I knew we were going to do it. I don't hold out any longer for a lot of people. I'm not like, oh, there's not that many people, I'm a failure. No, I'm in it. We're here. There's a few of us, and there's a reason that we're here. And so since there's a few people from Mount Holyoke here, now 3, Marianne is class of 84, I wanted to share one of the things that I found in my journals with you, and that is this. It is a note from Reggie Ludwig. And some of you, I know Mary Augusta knows her, but Tamara probably doesn't, and Marianne may. And Mary Augusta, Reggie Ludwig gave me this journal, and there is a note from her, and it was on my graduation, and it says, to Sue, cum laude, who writes me wonderful letters. Congratulations and best wishes for a joyous weekend and many happy years ahead. Reggie Ludwig, May 1984. Now, to everyone else, Reggie was the dean of admissions of my college. And my mother also went to my college. So she was an alumna, class of 56. So as such, I was afforded the opportunity to interview directly with the dean of admissions, who was this woman, Reggie. And or Reggie, I can't remember how she pronounced her name. I remember it being Reggie Ludwig. And in my college interview, she said to me, you have to get off of some of your high school activities. Usually they say you got to do something. And she's like, you got to stop doing all this stuff and you got to focus on your academics for these 2 quarters of the next junior year, whatever, because I was just a junior then. And then, we'll talk again. And so I really wanted to go to Mount Holyoke. And so I did what she suggested. And I ended up, getting my acceptance letter. I went there, I graduated cum laude with honors. Even though I got in, and on my acceptance letter, she wrote, please don't prove me wrong. She really did. She said, I want you to come here. You're a good, student for us, but you're going to have to work hard. And so when I graduated, I wrote her a note. That's what she was referring to, that said, I graduated with honors. And so I'm sharing this story with you. That was a great story for me. That was a lot of my success. It's 1984. How many years ago was that, Marianne? What reunion are we coming up to? 30.
Like 50? No,
Mary Augusta is actually having her 50th reunion.
I'm kidding. It just seems that way. We're headed towards our 40th, I think.
Yeah, towards our 40th. And so this is one of the reasons that I love journaling, is that if you actually commit to this practice of writing, this consistency about writing, you can find beautiful treasures in your journals. Now, I will be honest with you and say I have, as I've been going through, these are more of my journals. They say when you study the online business model, as I have for many, many years, they say you should situate yourself as an expert if you're going to be running something. And so this is part of what makes me an expert. And this is just some of them, and I have more in a box and more on a table. And so really and truly, I can absolutely say that the idea of journaling has changed my life in that way. When you can celebrate yourself, you can celebrate yourself without worry of being egotistical or feeling arrogant or anything. Nobody else is going to see it really. And so as women in particular, we suffer so much from the time we leave the girl, the superhero girl, the 8-year-old, the 9-year-old, the power girl behind, and we move into our pre-adolescence and adolescence, when we begin to close, that strong girl goes in and society begins to impose on us. And then we go through these years. It's actually a very treacherous journey. And so one of the ways that we can support ourselves and that inner girl is through journaling. So you can use journaling to show your self pride, your self accomplishments, and to really feel self love. Now, of course, there is the shadow side. And the shadow side, I'm not going to share with you because you don't need to know my dirty laundry. And believe me, I have it, but I decided that I didn't really need to air everything that's going on, you know, in personally with me in my journals. But please believe me when I say, even just this morning, I had been all since last week. I prepare mentally for the work that I offer, whether it's free like this, or if you pay me as a coach, or you pay to join a online workshop or, you know, online course or whatever I'm going to do. I prepare mentally. You can see I have no notes. This is my organic, intuitive offering. And so, but for me, I've been thinking about it. What would be the impact of the workshop? What would I say? What would I, you know, offer? And then I did go through my journals. And so I've been, you know, periodically just, you know, picking up a journal. This one is called New Beginnings. And then, you know, opening it up and reading. And here it says, poor Rebecca, my daughter, you're so sick. You missed school Friday for the first time in 3 years. You'll be staying home, etc. My best friend, my college roommate came to visit. And you just have, this was dated, 2002. You just have this, you know, stuff sort of wash over you. You're literally creating the history of your life. So there's the beautiful light Monique shared with us that she would, at nighttime, write the positives. And that's a great way to end the night. And then you go into your sleep state, which is amazing. You can either solve problems in your sleep state, or you can do what you're doing, Monique, which is feel uplifted through your own words and experience in your sleep state. And then, like I said, there's the shadow side. There's always, if you want, you know, you could also self-reveal in the most deeply profound way, you know, that there is about the stuff of life that is deeply difficult. So another one that I found also, it happens to be related to college, that was this one. And this was dated May 29th, 2004. And it says, driving home from reunion, had a great time, etc. And my daughter, Rebecca, came with me, and she was 14. And it says, Rebecca, you were so comfortable, so easy to get along with. I thoroughly enjoyed traveling with you. I'm already looking forward to doing it again. My classmates were amazed at how easily you interacted with them. I was so proud. There wasn't a moment I would change, not a moment. And so my daughter is now 30. And so this morning, I had the opportunity to be like, oh, damn, you know, and think of my adult grown ass woman daughter as the teenager she was in that moment. That's not to say we didn't have a few difficult moments when she was 14 as well. So for sure. So those are a few of my thoughts about journaling. And I wanted to ask, would anyone like to share their thoughts now? Does anyone have any journals that you'd like to share an entry? I would like to, again, it's just a few of us. I'd like to open the floor if you're interested for a brief comment to share.
I know I'd be open, but I don't have any with me.
Oh, that's okay.
But I do recall there was a moment several years ago at this point that when I was active in journaling, and I ended up, I was experiencing a lot of trouble in a relationship and was trying to process through it. And somehow, actually, he had ended up seeing it, but I don't know if that was just me putting it somewhere and not hiding it on purpose, but we actually ended up ending that relationship, which I think was devastating at the time, but better in the long run. And had I not processed those feelings at that time, I feel as though it would have been messier in the long run. So yeah, I'm grateful for that now, thinking back to it. I know that was something I very vividly remember writing about. So.
Interesting. It's an interesting idea that you just brought up, which is what happens with the journal and who sees them. I kept my journals in, I think it was a box, which was folded, how you fold the top closed. And I wrote a note in black marker, thick black marker, that said on the outside of the box, please respect my privacy. For my daughters, who doubtless, went around my room looking at things like any child might. And so whether or not they did, the way I chose to say it was, please respect my privacy. Whether or not your subconsciousness was acting, Monique, and you left it out for him to see, or whatever the idea that you're sharing with us about how you can use journaling to process your thoughts and your feelings is so important. Thank you for sharing that. And also the perspective of looking back is really huge. Thank you. Anybody else? Marianne?
I tend to keep two journals, one that is like general day to day, and then I have what I call my stress book. And that one is very private, and that's where I put my troubles and just the negatives. And that way, if anybody ever found my journal, that one I keep hidden. But the other one is like, if anybody wanted to read it, I don't really care, because that's written as like a history of what I'm doing. And I go back and I look through those. But the stress book, it's pretty much, I write it and it's done. And that way it's like, I process it through by, like Monique said, by writing it down and then knowing that that's the right thing. And when that fills up, I, find someplace to burn it, because I feel like when I'm done with it, it's done. And I don't want my words to hurt anybody in the future, because those are private words and private thoughts. And I just find that's a really easy way to let go of things that really bother me. And, sometimes before I burn it, I'll like flip through it and I think, wow, I was really upset about that. And it really came to nothing. And so it's a kind of a positive reinforcement that writing things down like that is a way of learning to let go of them instead of keeping them and just focusing back on them.
It's interesting. For those who follow me or have ever read anything I've written, I do write quite a bit about the idea of that contrast serves us, that they're actually the struggles that we suffer actually enrich our lives if we see how we have overcome the struggles, right? And Marianne, you just talked about that, the idea of that you looked back in the stress journals and you saw what you had overcome. There's such beauty and richness in knowing that you can get through these difficult times. And that, like I said, I saw some stuff that was pretty hard for me to remember. But yet here I am, right? Breathing in this moment and having a great time with everyone here. Thank you. That's really great stuff. One of the tips that I would like to share that is so important, Mary Augusta talked about the fact that she used to journal and then she kind of wants to get back into it. Monique talked about, also a certain kind of journaling, but you realized you hadn't done it in a long time. And several people, even though they didn't come, made comments or contacted me, messaged me. And one of the biggest things about journaling is consistency. How do you do it consistently? I mean, I'm literally, I'm literally holding up these books. And one of the ways that I found that it really made a difference in my consistency was when I started journaling. The way I started it was something that someone else shared with me. A woman I worked with, it came up. It was the year 1990. And I don't know how journaling came up at that time, why I was in conversation with that person. And I said, that first journal I showed you was from high school, when I graduated high school. So I had on and off tried through the years. And she said to me, somebody had told her about it. I write my journal to my daughter. And that has kept me journaling ever since. And she and I had daughters who were born around the same time. And so that was actually her second daughter, my first daughter, but she had started it with her older daughter. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. And I started right away. I went to a bookstore, I bought a journal, I bought this whole series of these beautiful journals, and I started writing to Rebecca. And that was the year 1990. It was the year she was born. And I know this because one of the entries that I read in one of the journals down here was 1992. It said, Rebecca, you're 2 years old. And then I said something like, I can't believe I've been writing to you for 2 years. So that's how I know that. That's how I remember that. And so if it is helpful to you to think about the idea of writing your journal to someone, another tool that I've heard about in journaling is writing the journal to yourself. Dear Susan, that you could actually write it to yourself. And especially by virtue of this conversation that we're having today, if you realize the things that we're learning and that we've begun to share with each other about your looking back, Marianne shared the idea of the stress journal. That's interesting. My stuff is all in there, Marianne. The good, the bad, and the ugly, it's all in there. But if there is someone in your life you might decide to journal to, then that really, without a doubt, is what kept me journaling, because I was writing to my daughter's future life. I knew that she wouldn't read my journal when she was 2. I didn't know the way life would go, God knows, but I knew with prayer and devotion to her long life and good health, that when she was an adult, she would be reading the journals, maybe when I'm alive, maybe when I'm gone or whatever. So to this end, I will tell you that I really was careful. I didn't write graphic details about my sex life such that it was ever with my husband because of that. And I didn't feel she needed to write that. So I didn't never make reference to it. As an adult, it would be perfectly fine for her to, know. But I was in awareness that she would, be reading. Of course, when Sarah was born 4 years later, I had a big dilemma. Now, what do I do? Am I writing a journal to Rebecca, a journal to Sarah, this and that? I just made it easy. I wrote it to both of them, dear girls. And I was like, they'll have to fight it out later, however that's going to go. And then for many, many years, I wrote my journal to the girls, both of my daughters. And I wrote it with the intention of showing them their lives through my eyes. And so if that is a tip that can help you in any way that you might extrapolate, I'm really happy to share that tip today. Does anybody have any comments to share?
I love the idea of writing it to your daughter. I've tried to write when my grandchildren were born. I wrote them a note on that day, how I felt, I was there with the birth or, and I have pictures, and then I made sure that I had a picture or something like that. And I intend to give those to them when they, like they're marked aside already, to be given to, Lucy on her graduation from high school. I think that'll be a time for her because she'll hopefully be going off to college, and maybe that'll be a time that she'll start journaling if she's not if she hasn't already started. But I think it's something to introduce to future generations.
Beautiful. Mary Augusta?
I was in a class once on journaling, and one of the things that the leader of that class, and really the intent there was to gather material for further writing, but she said she found that it was impossible in some ways to write a journal that didn't have some reader in mind. And I'm just curious about how other people feel about that. Do you always have a reader in mind, or are you doing it just to express something to yourself?
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I definitely, I'd never thought about it that way, but I think whenever I did write, it was always as if I were having a conversation with myself. And sometimes I feel as though I'd respond to something I'd write, if that makes sense. So I'd write a thought and then be like, oh no, I actually think this way. So, but it would all kind of get sorted out. So I really like that, Mary Augusta. Resonates with me.
Yvonne?
I've kind of journal, it sounds weird, but like I'm writing a book, kind of like telling it from a narrative, kind of like, especially the beginning of this year and everything, and talking about 2020 and how weird and sci-fi it was. So, but I've started my life story a couple different times, but didn't get very far.
Well, of course, Yvonne knows I call myself a book Sherpa coach. So I help women get the book out from in them. I do, that is one of the areas of coaching that I do. And so I don't think it sounds weird at all, Marianne, of course. In fact, one of the ways that there are some women I've spoken to about this and I've worked with, that the book that was to come forth actually is from entries written in journals. So some people are professionals, they have blogs, it's a self-help, this, that, or the other thing. But the book Sherpa coaching that I do, the material can often be found in one's journals. So I think it's great. The books that I published, let me see if I get, here we go. This is my little gift book set. And so the books that I published are actually anthology books of magazine articles that I have written for the Luminous Wisdom magazine, which is a global online magazine for women. And the way I won't, belabor, I'll tell you all how it all came about. But what I ended up writing, this book is called Your Job Is to Be. And it says an anthology to inspire soul connection. Each chapter is really just an article from the magazine that was already published. It's an anthology book, but every chapter is followed, let's see if you can see it, by a page that says contemplate. And then there's a question. This one says, can you become aware of your thoughts and make an effort to turn them positive? This contemplate page says, how can you come to conscious awareness and stake claim in yourself? This one says, what is the place you already want to be? So when I did publish my books, I actually created little journals of them for the reasons, all the reasons that we're talking about. This book is a book on meditations, and it's the same thing. They're actually original meditations that I wrote, and each chapter is very short, and it's followed by a page that has lines in it for reflections. And then just for fun, I'll show you, this is my third book, which is called Dear Younger Self, which is a great title. I love it. And it's the same thing. Each page is, these journaling pages says self-reflections. So that's how much I love journaling, that I wanted to create my own, opportunity to journal. I also actually created a beautiful journal, a downloadable journal that I give as a gift for one of the areas of coaching that I do. I have this specific thing that I do called the Call to the Powerful Self. It's a one-time coaching call. It's 90 minutes, and I have a format that I go through to help people. and then as a gift for that specific call, I give my journal, because I'm so committed to the idea for women especially to go in. I call it go in and go deep, to really reflect and find, what is in there. And that is, to me, the most important thing about women, because as I said, when you're 6, 7, 8, you're power girl with your hands on your hips, standing there, and you're strong and sure and confident in yourself. You'll climb trees and, swing high on the swings and jump off. And then sometimes, sometime along the way after that, you just begin to go into this closed place. Otherwise, you're called a tomboy, as if that's a bad thing, because you don't fit with the society of, girl things as you're coming into 12, 13, 14, etc. Even 10, 11, 12. Today, it even starts younger. And so journaling, I believe, can really, just lovingly support whatever that is in you. I'm pointing down there because in Susan's world, the soul, which I call the place of deepest feeling, is down deep in your inner core, like all the way down deep in your abdomen. And that is the beauty for me of journaling, of really communicating, self-communing with your soul. So Mary Augusta asked about the idea of, when you journal, are you generally thinking of a reader? For me, Mary Augusta, the answer is yes. I definitely can answer yes to that. But whether the reader, of course, was my daughters in the beginning. In subsequent years, honestly, I had so many. Here's my latest, this one. This is my latest journal that I just ended, 10/5/20, but it started in 2015. So for me, in more recent years, and I think it was Mary Augusta, you said something about the fact that in more recent years, I can't remember exactly what you said, you haven't been journaling as much. For me, once I became a writer, my writing is actually a form of my journaling. And so every post that I put on Facebook is actually a form of my journaling, because my purpose, my divine purpose, is to uplift and inspire women and really help them, get soul connected. And so between my writing in the magazine, which I've been doing for 3 years now, so every month I get 500 words of resonant writing. And I got my deadline, I meet it, and I have my articles. That is a form of journaling, but also my posts, even on LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn and you look at my posts, Monique, you might have noticed it. Even my LinkedIn posts are like journaling. And that's why this journal took 5 years. Now there's many other pages you can see. There's other stuff in it. There's other things. So there's other places that I've written as well. And then I just stuck them in here. But in this journal, I will say in more recent years, here's one from 2018. I am an author, and it's underlined 5 times. And it says my best-selling book, which I don't have a best-selling book yet, generates monthly residual. It's a total intention that I have set here. I wasn't an author in January 2018. I became an author in 2019. So, and here's again, I am a book author. I'm clear on my offerings, etc. So later on, in more recent years, as I've worked in the area of affirmation and basically I channel, I don't know if you know who Wayne Dyer is, but I channel Wayne Dyer through intentions. I've morphed away. My daughters will read my journals one day if they want to. They may not want to, but if they want to. But now I'm more in the area of inspiration and, sort of just writing more for energetic outcome. So let me pause again to see if there's any questions or comments or discussion. And then I have an article I want to share with you. Does anybody have any thoughts to share?
I actually, I keep having this thought, actually, I meant to mention it in the beginning, but I've noticed over the last maybe year or so, I haven't been sleeping as well as I used to. And I used to pass right out, like, time for bed, it's time. And I think I'm just really wondering if it's because way back when I journaled, I was getting everything out, and now not so much. And you're just thinking and thinking and thinking way into the night. So that's just the thought that I'm having right now.
It's a beautiful thought
Yeah.
to be having right now. And I invite you to take a moment quietly with yourself and write a note and do a little, I call it mapping out an action, MAP, M period, A period, P period, my action plan. Just a little 3-point step of going over, for the next week, step 1, really think about and consider what it is that you just shared, what you said, this idea. Step 2 is try it for 1 week's time. I like the idea of a 21-day habit. It's not really 21 days, it's actually 30 days or more, but still in all, to do something and think that you can get through it, try just even for 1 week. And then step 3, and then step 3 would be review. Step 3 would be review. I do these little 3-point action plans. Step 3 would be like, in a week, if you do this, if you want, you can experiment through this and see how that served. See if that, if getting it out at night, if you look at every night of the week and say, okay, I'm going to write down, I'm going to do this, I'm committing to this, and you do it and you get it out from in you. And then in a week, you can see how how that affected you.
I like it. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Anybody else? Marianne?
I found that in the morning when I sit down to have coffee, because I'm self-employed, I have that luxury that I can start the morning at my pace. And I find if I sit with, because I have like a morning ritual, and I find that my day is more productive if I sit down and start the day intentionally. And one of the things I do is maybe, grab my journal for just a few minutes and write down what I intend to do for the day, and set that, like you said, setting an intention makes it real. And it could be one paragraph. It could be, maybe I'll start thinking about something I'm going to do that day and jot the ideas down. But I find, and then at night, very often when I'm trying to settle in for the evening, I'll just grab it again and, journal what I've done today, or, how I felt. And I think that, like when you say about bookending, and then that gives me, a review. So in the morning, I'll be like, oh yeah, I talked about that in my journal last night. So.
I love the idea of, starting the day with some journaling. I love that, you're taking your day into your control. I really do. I think that's really so helpful, because most women, I don't really know anything about men, so I speak about women. I don't want to say most people, but most women, our minds are perseverating. The minute we wake up, it's all coming right at us, because we wear so many hats and there's so much imposed. Now, of course, as a coach, I know a lot of it is self-imposed, but it feels like there's so much. You wake up and it all comes at you. And so, Marianne, I wrote down a note. I love the phrase, start the morning at my pace, at my own pace. I love that. And if somebody does have the luxury of creating those 10 minutes in the morning, or 15, if they can do that, that's such a really great tool. Anybody else? What I'd like to do for now is offer an opportunity for about 3 minutes, I'll set my timer, to invite you to write, to just, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set my timer and then I'm going to walk away because my journal is in my briefcase over there. So I'm going to walk away to get my journal and bring it back. And I want to invite you to write wherever you have paper or whatever on any thoughts and ideas that are different that you might have received just from our discussion so far. And then, you know, we can come back. If you prefer to turn your screen off while you write, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, you can leave it on and just sit there and write. So I'm going to start it. I'll walk away and come back, and then we'll come back. I'll let you know when our time is up. Okay. So if you want to take another few seconds to finish up. I'll show you my latest journal. Can you guys see this?
Oh, cool.
See what it says? I did a keynote speech at Mount Holyoke a couple of years ago for some big group. I can't remember what it was. And this was one of the gifts that they gave me, was a beautiful leather bound journal that says Mount Holyoke Alumni Association with a beautiful pen. So I recently discovered that and decided, oh, I'm definitely committed to journaling now. So, All right, what I would like to do now, I hope that you have already begun to glean a few new ideas that will really stimulate an interest and possibly even a commitment to journaling again. So as a reminder, we're going to end right at 3. But what I would like to do now is share an article with you that I found. I don't know where I found this. Hold on, get to the beginning. Now, can you let me know, can somebody tell me that you can give me a thumbs up if you can see the article? Yeah, okay, good, okay, great. So I found this article, I think it was written actually in 2017 in Inc. magazine. I've been studying entrepreneurship for many, many, many years. So I found this on Inc.com. And at that time, I don't know what was going, I don't know, why ever I kept it, but it resonated so deeply with me that I've shared it many times over. I've used it in my coaching when I've been encouraging someone to learn to journal. And I thought that it would be helpful to look at it together. And then if you'd like, you can drop your email in the comment lines if you're interested in receiving a copy, and I can email it to you. Benjamin Hardy is a PhD. I remember that I looked him up once, the author of this article, but I don't really remember anything about him, to tell you the truth. But except that he, I really can't remember, to tell you the truth, but I really have found this article to be so helpful. Yeah, he is a PhD. He's a psychologist, I believe. So the thing that journaling offers is a bridge from where you are in your mind to where you actually can, get to in your life. So let me say that again. The thing that I feel journaling offers is a bridge from where you are in your mind to where you can actually get to in your life. I've experienced this over and over. Witness, okay, I'm not a best-selling author yet, but I will be, mark my words. But in January 2018, I planted that flag. I said, I am an author, and I am a published author now. The big book is still being worked on, the whole story that I was referring to then. But I believe that when we pull forth what's in here, which actually also comes from here and also our soul, it actually activates these ideas into reality. So he says, you have all these things that you resolve. You're going to be healthy, maybe write a book. You're going to be more present. You're going to start a business, learn a language, be more patient, get happy, etc., get out of debt, all these things, overcome bad habits, just start exercising, etc. And then he says, the problem is doing these things is hard. And that is all. Doing these things is just hard. And I wonder if you've experienced this yourself, that you wake up and you say, today's the day I'm going to do this. One day you eat healthy, the next night it's potato chips on the couch. And then what he says is, when there's a gap between who you are and who you intend to be, you are incongruent and unhappy. You're torn, mentally exhausted, and regretful. You always slightly feel like a fraud to yourself. The fraud, it's called personal fraud, who you kind of are up here versus who you present, how you actually are, and probably to the people around you. And then he quotes Gandhi, who said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Oh my gosh, this is the basis of my confidence coaching. When what you think, what you say and what you do are in harmony. And Marianne and Yvonne in particular, because they've been with me and they know me and, you know, we've been involved together. I mean, I bet that all three of us can agree through our online coursework together and all the work that we've been doing about how much when you begin to really be in that intentional space and present yourself, you know, as you really are and you want to be, how great that really feels. This idea in this article that he calls the Keystone Habit, which is actually from another book called The Power of Habit, is really has been really sort of transformational for me. This is exactly how I have grown to be soul connected myself to the extent that humans can be, and how I have succeeded in my business. The habit, the Keystone Habit, small changes or habits that you introduce into your routine that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of your life. I have found that the very small, Monique shared it with us. That was an example of writing out at night, and how, you know, at that time, you know, you're going to test it out and see, but you were able to sleep better, and how surely that would carry over into other parts of your life. I thought this quote was so pertinent. Small changes or habits that people introduce into their routines that intentionally carry over into other aspects of their lives. And I have found this to be the case over and over and over. There's another quote here that I wanted to share. The author of this article is making the case from the Keystone Habits to journaling. And Stephen Covey is a well-known marketing and management guru. He wrote, I think Stephen Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Successful People, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, keeping a personal journal, a daily in-depth analysis and evaluation of your experience, is a high leverage activity that increases self-awareness and enhances all the endowments and the synergy among them, which everyone who knows me knows I love synergy. I love everything about synergy. I teach synergy, I talk synergy, and I believe that everything is synergistic with each other. And so for Stephen Covey to be saying that would have really spoken to me as I was moving into developing my own business. And then the author says, journaling daily is the most potent and powerful keystone habit you can acquire. If done correctly, you will show up better in every area of your life, every area. And he talks about how it's made a difference for him. Now, there's something here about optimizing creative potential. As I mentioned, Marianne is an artist, and just one of many I know, including one of my very best friends, and many people inside our Facebook community, my Facebook community, Discovering You Again for Women in the Second Half of Life. And the creative potential for artists is like a little more obvious if you're an actual artist, but journaling can actually show you your own creative potential. This first sentence, most people live their lives on other people's terms, is the antidote to everything I do in my coaching, and the antidote, or the antithesis, I would say, of how my life is growing to be. And that's why I call my coaching 100% in your control. And I would ask you to consider that for yourself. Their days are spent achieving other people's goals, submitting to other people's agendas, etc. But when you journal, you're creating your own goals, your own agenda, your own design for your life. And I love this idea. I work on this with most of my clients of designing your life. Here he's talking about this idea of the importance of morning routines, the importance of morning routines. And this is something that I have learned without a doubt at all, that can have a huge transforming impact. One of my clients, just a new client I started working with, so funny. I just started working with a new client and she was talking to me. She's got a lot going on and a difficult situation at work. And I was talking to her about, I asked her what her morning waking routine is, because I teach about the morning waking routine. And she told me she wakes up, it's heavy, you know, she doesn't want to go to work. It's this whole thing. I invited her to have sex in the morning as one way of changing that. She was a little nonplussed by that because she's a new client. Yvonne is hysterical. I actually did do that. I actually did say that, but he doesn't talk about that. But here, and there's some hot links in here, as you can see, the idea of your waking routine in the morning is, what's that word? Codified by Louise Hay. If you don't know who Louise Hay is, you can look her up. I generally attribute her as the person who mainstreamed the mindfulness movement. She didn't create the mindfulness movement, but I generally attribute it to Louise Hay as like mainstreaming through Hay House, the mindfulness movement. And she wrote an affirmation, or a quote I attribute to her is, the way I start my day is the way I live my life. And so Monique, it's interesting that, you know, you talk about the way you end your day, because you have this sense of, you know, emptying your mind and a better sleep or whatever. But if you do it that way, you know, it could be said, you know, maybe you're waking up in a better way. To Louise Hay's point, the way you start your day, if you wake up good, you go from good to good. Now, I know Marianne and Yvonne in particular heard me say this ad nauseum, but this idea bears repeating. When you wake up good, you go from good to good. When you wake up bad, you go from bad to bad. And then you can go from bad to worse. You can also go from good to great. So this is really an important point about journaling in the morning as well. Because if you woke up bad, let's say in quotation marks, feeling badly, something about bad, that's not good or whatever. If you, like Marianne, have a morning time journaling routine, you can get that out of you so that you can go on to better, which is where we want to be, because we go from better to better to better, maybe even from better to good to great, and we go from bad to worse, etc. So I wanted to really point out that. Now, I love everything about goal setting. I am a highly aspirational person. I'm an overly ambitious person. The only difference is, as I pulled back, is that I now be in my success today. This is a perfect example. Would it have been better, more successful, if there were 60 people on this workshop instead of 6? My being in my success today is like, this is it. This is the total success for today. I was really looking forward to this workshop. I'm grateful to each of you for coming. And this is success for me. I'm doing it. That's it. And I don't have to worry about, well, I wish there were more people. In some ways, intimate is my thing. And again, the people who have worked with me know that very well. Everything I do, it just seems to be small. So, but what he says is, as part of your morning creative burst, you can use your journal to, like Marianne was talking about, to do your a daily to-do list. And also review and hone your life vision and big picture goals. And this is so, so true. As you read and rewrite your goals daily, they become forged into your subconscious mind. This is simply true. That's what affirmations are, if you're familiar with affirmations. And that you actually affirm, into your brain. And so eventually, he says, your dreams and vision will consume your inner world and quickly become your physical reality. I am the manifestation of that paragraph. So I started to highlight a few words, recovery and detach. And I'm like, those words are interesting and familiar if you know anything about alcoholism, which I only and more recently am learning about. And in 2017, when I read this before, I didn't recognize those words. Now I'm learning about it and I'm speaking about it because it's important for people to speak about it. And I read these words, I'm like, what? Recovery and detach? That's interesting. So if that's relevant in your life, I wanted to bring that to your attention. But in particular, I do want to talk about the idea of really recovering from your life as you knew it. I see a typo here. I'm going to fix that right now. There we go. From recovering, the idea of recovering from your life as you knew it. Journaling can actually help you with that. As you go about this writing, self-processing, you actually are in a way of recovering from where you've been. And as we said before, when you go back, you can see where you've been and recognize where you are today. He goes on to talk about clarity and congruence, clearing emotions. As women, and again, I don't have to read all this, I'll be sending it to you. As women, we are taught to suppress our emotions. Now, those of us in enlightenment, if you've had an enlightenment journey of your own, I call it soul connection and I call it soul rising into the light. And that's what I write about. And I talk about your soul as her and her like, popping up her head and seeing the light. And that is another thing that journaling can help you do. Just this morning at 7:30, one of my clients was let go yesterday, summarily dismissed by the C-level person, let's say, and she's a C-level person, and she was dismissed by the higher C-level person summarily. And so I had to do this whole exercise with her. She didn't even know what the word clearing meant. So I was able to, go through this process of clearing with her, which journaling is a very good way to do. He talks about anytime it says brain development and memory, I'm all in. I've been studying the brain just colloquially myself. I love everything about the brain, everything I've learned about the brain. And it's absolutely, completely true that if you learn about the brain, that you can actually be in control, take charge, and really support, bolster, and boost your brain functioning by some of these tools that we're talking about. And then, of course, I think it's extremely like mainstream today. Actually, where is it? Let me show it to you. Hold on. I showed this on one of my lives the other day. Can you see this? You may be familiar with this. This was a journal that Oprah actually created. It's not leather. It looks leather, but maybe it is leather. I don't know. But this was when she was on her way to ending her show. And she knew she was going to be creating her own television network. And oh yeah, it must have been after she did, because she sent out these journals for free. And it says, find OWN, own, on your TV. So it must have been when she was promoting her network. And all you had to do was write in somewhere or whatever, and then you received this journal from Oprah. And the idea, it was Oprah's life class. And the idea was that it would be a gratitude journal. And so, Oprah mainstreamed everything. Everything she did became mainstream. So I think that it's probably fairly common knowledge about the idea of, gratitude, but there's a lot about that in here, as you can see. And I highly, highly recommend going through this list. And finally, journaling unfolds the writer in you. I became a writer from journaling. I didn't know it. I had never intended to be a writer. I never thought about being a writer. I never wrote before, not really to speak of. But now, as I process and think about it, there's no question at all that my habit of journaling led to my being a published author. The way I'm published, if you read my work, you'd be like, oh yeah, that does look like a journal, a journal entry. And so, but in many different ways, journaling absolutely can help you become a writer. And I promote that every woman should write in any way, shape, or form. Mary Augusta, if you would like to put a link to your book, we'd love to know what your book is. You said it's what did you say, nonfiction or whatever? Whatever it is, please put a link so we can look it up. We'd love to know what it is. And I do really want to tell you that if writing in some way, shape, or form is of interest to you, without a doubt, journaling can support that goal. The idea of recording your life history, we've talked about, and then he lists many benefits, etc. And then he ends it with this: enjoy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing now. And I see you guys have been writing it. I didn't know that. And I will, because I've recorded this, I will have your emails. And so I'll go back through it, and then I will make sure to send you the articles. So let me take a breath and throw it back out to you. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or anything that they would like to share now? Thoughts?
I think this has been really awesome.
Excited. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marianne.
Go ahead.
Marianne?
Okay.
I just think that it's been incredibly helpful, and it's really nice to know that other people kind of struggle with the how-to of journaling and what you want to accomplish. And I see everybody nodding their head,
Yeah.
because these are things, I mean, you presented, different people brought up different things about, well, gosh, I never thought about journaling about that part of my life. And I think it's really important, because I think as women, we have important stories to tell. And it's just a matter of who we're telling them to, whether it's ourselves or future readers, or just mostly to ourselves, I think. And then that projects outward from there. But thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Monique?
Yeah, no, I am just, the word that comes up to me is fired up. I'm really excited to start writing. I'm seeing it now. I have a blank journal that's just been sitting on a bookshelf that I look at all the time, and it has not been opened. And I think it's about time to crack it open. So I'm really looking forward to that. So
Good. I'm so glad. That's so great. Monique, do you think that you'll try the exercise that I suggested?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I wrote it down on a bright blue Post-it note in my notebook. So
Good. Excellent. Anybody? Mary Augusta.
I wanted to thank you, because one of the things I've been trying to think about is why, given that there's plenty of time at the moment, I'm not writing as much. And partially, I think I looked back on when I kept my journal most avidly, most consistently, and those were often things like vacations or illness or when I was away. And I realized it's because that's when I felt the time was my own. And somehow I had the time to do this. And I'm thinking now there's no reason I don't have the time. I just haven't somehow identified it as my own time. this is my own time. I can do this with journaling. So I really think even thinking about that was good for me. And I appreciate everyone's contributions. The book is called Odyssey in Print, and it's just a Smithsonian publication, Odyssey in Print. But I really do want to try writing writing fiction or narrative nonfiction, one or the other. But I think it's again a question of making the time and feeling that the time is valuable. And I think that's the result, perhaps like most of you, of working a very long time. But now this is time where I could do it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. If I can support you, I actually do that as a coach.
Mhm.
Also, I want to invite you to consider time is one element, but I want to invite you to consider legacy
Mhm.
and impact. And I want to invite you to consider whatever it is that you have to say. Whatever it is that's on your mind. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is. And so did you recently retire?
Yes, very recently.
That's why.
Just before all of this, yeah.
Right. So that's why you just retired, and you retired into a pandemic. And so I really want to invite you to, take some breaths and open up and, allow your soul to come up and, kind of let you know what it is that you're doing and why you want to do it. And, create your writing. You wrote a book already. You know what that's like, whether it's a Smithsonian book or publication or not. It is. And so that it doesn't matter if it's a Smithsonian publication or what it is. It is. And so I hope that you will find that space. You've doubtless, have a lot to say through your life's experience. And now is your time. And thank God, it appears to me, I don't know you obviously, you appear to be healthy and okay. And, and also you'll be a role model for other women. So I want to really strongly encourage you. And if I can support you, let me know.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Anybody else?
Me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Yes. Thank you so much for doing this. Was wondering if you had any recommendations on what to focus on specifically, maybe just a simple thought to get me on that path. Because my problem isn't doing what it is that I like. I've pretty much been doing that since the Army retired me at 25. I've done what I wanted when I wanted to, had a lot of family support with all the kids that I created. So I was able to come and go as I please. This is the first one I'm raising, my 5-year-old, and it's my 4-year-old, and it's actually really fun. Anyhow, but I am a total nut magnet. And my bestie had told me for my next relationship to find someone, keep the crazy in the friend zone, because they're interesting doesn't mean I need to get into a relationship with them, and find something more stable and boring. That just sounds horrible, but I don't know if it's just how I am, that I talk to everyone, or it just might be the people who are in my orbit and that's what's meant to be. But it always ranges on pretty much the extreme, like a very fascinating grandmother who works for the underworld, someone who was kidnapped in Honduras and almost fed to lions. I kid you not, you would think I make up these stories, but these are the type of people I meet all the time. And I'm hoping, because I moved here, I can change that, because now I've left a lot of these people behind. And I'm like, maybe I need to journal and focus and ingrain it in my head, something where I'd like to just meet normal.
If you want, then you may, with my permission, journal about what it is that you want to be every day. How you want to be every day, how you want your life to be every day, and the type of people you might want in your life. There is great benefit to being in the mindful space of what it is that you want, not wish, but want. Want is the key word. Want is a magic word. I want this because want is actually a word of supplication. It's like a prayer. Now, there is also benefit to being in what I call the I am state, the I am state of being. I am this. And that brings you firmly in an affirmed way into that place. However, I just listened to what you said, and I'm thinking that you may need some permission, in which case I'm giving it to you. The permission is important to come from within, of course. Yes, I think the journaling can very much support the I want space for you. I want to have healthy people in my life. I want to have informed consent, through in my own personal engagement and as a role model for my child. So you could do some journaling around the I want space. And I want to encourage you to consider what I want for now, not what I want in the far future, because the now is where the power is. And so that would be one idea. If you want to journal about the I am state, then that is another possibility for you. I am calm. I am peaceful today. I am, in charge. I am in control. I am with people, friends, or in a relationship that supports life as I want it to be. That's an example of the I am state. Now, having said that, those are two possibilities. A third possibility, if you want, is you could journal on the stories that have been shared with you. You could journal on some of these people without, maybe you want to change the name. I want to make sure that you're appropriate with whatever you write down. But it sounds like you attract fascinating people and you've been to interesting places and you're doing fun things. Now you find yourself in Hawaii. So using your journal, you could also journal on the stories of your life. I also call it creating the history of your life. So stories and storytelling is important. And we also can understand that we are actually creating the history of our own lives. So those are a few ideas to share. So we are just coming to the top of the hour. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for showing up today. There's a lot to be said for showing up to yourself, showing up for someone else like me, leading a workshop like this, and then also as women showing up for each other. There's a lot of power in showing up. So I really want to thank you thank you for that. I want to let you know, as I mentioned before, the only thing I wanted to tell you about that among the many things that I do is this idea that I offer called the call to the powerful self, because it can support your journaling, and also journaling can support your powerful self. That is the basis of everything I do. We're not powerful all the time, but we can pull forth the powerful self. So if that interests you, you can let me know. You can find me anywhere. I'm on Facebook every day. I'm on LinkedIn every day, and I'm on email, and my phone is an appendage. My business goes where I go, and my business is what I call an intuitive business, and it's a purpose-based business. And so if I can be of service, let me know. All right, friends, that is it for today. If this was fun and interesting for you, I'm always looking for testimonials. That is something Monique knows. Monique gave me a beautiful testimonial about another conversation that we had. But I am interested in doing more women's workshops in small groups like this. So if you are interested, that would be great. All right, so thank you to each and every one of you. We just hit the 3 o'clock hour, and I will look forward to hearing from you if you're interested, or perhaps doing something like this again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzu.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Take good care.